Hey guys, welcome back here to today's edition of The Fishing Teacher, and really appreciate you guys swinging by the channel and checking it out. And guys, today we're going to have a really good refresher course on the old school, not really old school, but it's sort of the old school 3.5 inch ribbed paddle tail swim bait. This is the thing that started it all years ago. I got some tips and advice I want to pass along with you guys on this particular size because I think personally the best time to fish it is in March and early April. So I'm going to go over some techniques that's worked good for me on it, and hopefully it'll add up to some good fish for you guys. So we'll get into that today. And also guys, we'll be talking about the Zoom Z-Swim with the Megabass Okashira jig head. So I'll put both of these in my tackle warehouse link in this video description of this video. If you guys would like to order a pack of the Okashiras, pack of the Z-Swims, get you set up with the technique. So I really appreciate that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the bait itself. Now, there's a lot of different sizes of the, Kitech is the one that originated it, but this is the Zoom model here. And recently, over the past 3 or 4 years, a lot of the anglers, a lot of the companies have really started going towards the smaller model, like the 2.4 inch Kitech or the 3 inch. They have a 3.3 inch and a 2.4. This is the 3.6 inch here. Sort of like the standard that it started out with. But over the past 3 or 4 years, a lot of anglers have gotten away from this larger size and they went to the smaller sizes for like their Alabama rigs and more finesse type situations, and they work really good. But there is a time and place that they still like this bigger, fatter model of the 3.5 inch size. So that's what I want to talk about today in the video. Okay, first of all, let's talk a little bit about rigging this thing up. One of the things you want to do with them, like on all the soft plastics that really help, is before you rig it, guys, just rough the salt up in them. You know, take your fingers and mash the soft plastic. Try to bring that salt to the surface of it. And what this does is it gives the bait more pliability, and it changes the color a little bit. It sort of takes the shine off it, and it gives more of a dull finish because the salt is brought to the surface. It really helps, in my opinion. And the next thing you want to do, take the Megabass Okashira jig head, and I like the 1/8 ounce size here. And then you can see on the Z-Swim here, you've got a light back here. Then you've got a sort of like an opening right here if you want to put your hook in it for Texas rigging. But what I like to do is I'm going to come straight through, the colored part. And here's a big tip I'll give you on it when you're rigging this Okashira on the swim bait here. Don't come through the center of the swim bait. You want to try to just come barely under the surface of the back of it, because what this does, it gives you more of a bite gap. See how much more bite gap I got in the hook right there? And I don't know if you can see it, but I don't know if you can see it there, but it's probably, you might be able to like that. See right there, see how the hook is right there? The hook is right at the top of the swim bait here. Don't try to get it right through the center there, because if you do it through the center, you're going to lose a lot of that bite gap, and it's going to cost you fish. So it's pretty simple. That's how I rig it, just like that. Very, very simple. And also, aside from rigging it where, you have more of a bite gap, when you put this swim bait on, make sure that you come perfectly through the middle of the swim bait. You don't want to come off to the side, or the swim bait's going to ride off to the side. So come in just like that. Okay, that's the setup with it. Now, the rig on this thing, as far as, the equipment that I throw it on Megabass 6'11" inch spinning rod, 8-pound test Seagar, and Vizex fluorocarbon line. That's my setup with it. Some people throw it on a bait caster, but I think it's a little bit overkill. It's sort of like on the borderline between wanting to use it on a bait caster and a spinning rod, but I simply have more confidence in the spinning outfit. I can cast it farther, and I feel like I just have a better feel on it. So, and since it is an open hook, I don't really need a lot of power to set the hook, so I do use it on a spinning rod. So in the pre-spawn, this is what I want to talk about today, why this works so good. Once that water temperature starts to get into the low 50s, a lot of the bass, they prefer a little bit larger size of a lure. So let's say, for example, in the wintertime, you were catching them on that little 3.3 inch Kitech or the 2.4 inch Kitech. Those are good wintertime baits. But when that water temperature starts getting around 50 degrees, the bass make a shift and they like a little bit larger profile lure. And that's why I go up in size here. Now, this is not only a longer one, but it's a lot more fatter diameter. It's a beefier bait. And there's something about the bass getting ready to spawn, and they're in a pre-spawn stage, and they just react better to bigger lures. You know, not only smaller fish, but bigger fish as well. So that's one of the reasons that I go up with that. And then I'm talking about fishing this thing in staging areas. Now, there's two primary places that I like to fish and swim this Kitech. The first one is you can't go wrong with secondary points. Secondary points, usually found in coves or creek arms, are some of the top staging areas during that time of year. And bass will set on those points. And they set on the points in a variety of different depth zones. Some of the bass will be on the bottom deep. Some of them will be suspended out off the point. Some of them may be shallower. It's all relative to your water clarity. But for this technique, I want to have at least a minimum of 3 foot visibility. Ideally, I want 4 to 5 foot of visibility. And that's going to put those fish on those secondary points in a lot of different positions. And you just sort of have to fish to find out what they're on. Sometimes they're going to be suspended 10 foot down over 30 foot of water on the point. Sometimes they're going to be on the bottom and 30 foot of water on the point. If the water temperature is closer to 55 degrees, they may be up in 5 or 10 foot of water on the bottom on the point. So you sort of have to fan cast the point to figure this out. Now, my favorite way to fish at that time of year on those points is I throw it out there, and I like to fish it just off the bottom. So I'll throw it out there, I'll let it hit the bottom, and then I'll just, give it a snap and just start with a slow retrieve. And after I reel it for 5 or 6 times, I'll let it go back down to the bottom. And I caught a lot more fish doing that. If you do have a lake that has a lot of spotted bass in it, those spotted bass will tend to suspend more out on those points. So if I have a heavy spotted bass lake, like some of our Ozark lakes here, or if I was fishing like Lake Lanier in Georgia, I'd probably try to target those fish suspended out off those points. That's going to be a prime location for them. Okay, the other place that I fish this time of year is in the ditches or the guts. Now, ditches or guts are prime areas for bass during the pre-spawn, especially on lakes in the eastern part of the country where you have blueback herring. Lake Murray, Lake Lanier, Georgia, Lake Hartwell, all those type of lakes are perfect for fishing ditches. And it's very simple. You don't have to have herring. You can catch them here in the Ozarks doing it. Is go back into one of your major creek arms and go back in, say you go halfway back into that creek arm and there's coves, offshooting on each side of the creek. Go about halfway back into those coves, get in the middle of the creek channel, and take the swim bait here and cast it right down the middle of that channel. Let it go to the bottom in 15 to 30 foot of water and just slow crank it just off the bottom. Now, if you idle through there and you start noticing some shad that are suspended, like shad schools or 5 or 10 foot down, try doing that. Count it down to 5 or 10 and try to reel it to catch those fish that are suspended in those ditches and guts. But anyway, guys, it's a really good bait to fish in March and early April. Get you a lot of bites, get you some good fish. So hope it helps you guys catch them, and we'll talk to you later.